Sarah, would you want to be an expert fisher, hunter, or gardener?
I mean, what I would want to be would be an expert gardener. I want to be like an old lady who's a master gardener, and I go around and I have everything and I know the scientific name of everything. That's what I want. But for survival purposes, I think I'd be a hunter.
Yeah.
Look,
I went all over on this one. I was really struggling because at first I love fishing. Like that's like one of my favorite things to do on planet Earth is to fish. I'm like Tom Colicchio. Very Tom thing to do is just, I'm obsessed with fishing. But I feel like being an expert hunter has value and benefits outside of just sustenance, right? I feel like things could go weird in this country, and I would like to be an expert hunter in ways that would be. Maybe I've watched too much The Last of Us, or maybe I've watched too much Alone, but I kind of feel like hunting skills would be awesome.
I don't know, but now I'm thinking maybe fishing skills, because ice fishing. Like there's a lot less people that are going to have the skill to be an expert fisher than hunter. So eventually all the animals are going to be gone, but the people that can't swim, we can still beat them out and go get the fish.
Yeah. But you know what? The whole, the romantic idea of being like a master gardener and like an old lady, just having all the answers in the soil, that also has an extreme appeal to me. It's just like, oh yeah, you want to know how to, grow this or cook this or peel that. I feel like that is at a cocktail party, quite fun, but also has a lot of benefit. I'm going hunter. That's what I'm doing.
Final answer. I'm switching and I'm going gardener, because I'm just saving seeds every year, right? Like you have an infinite supply of gardening abilities. Infinite. Every year you just save it. You're your own Monsanto, picking the best one, carrying it over. Yeah. Going gardener. Plus it sounds like the most fun and the least amount of work.
This is Pack Your Knives. I am Tom Haberstroh.
And I'm Sara Bradley.
Sarah, we are, what an episode. I love this episode, Mise and Place race. We're outside. We're whittling down the number of chefs, which means we get a lot more kind of banter back and forth. It's a lot more fun. I think the judges are a little bit more relaxed and taking shots at each other. We have more like lore and canon that we're referring to, and Tom is talking shit to Rhoda and being like, this dessert it was even sweeter than Rhoda's dessert from last week. And they're digging at each other. And then we go and we cook fish. We fish out on the lake. And that's also super fun that you can't do with 15 chefs or have the same sort of, this is all to say, I'm trying to cope with Dwayne being sent home. And I'm just trying to bring positivity to the show because I'm really just depressed right now.
Yeah. I mean, when I saw her try to pull the skin off, I knew she was cooked. I knew that was it. She was done. And she's probably I just said last week, she's like my favorite one. She's my favorite one to watch. But I think it stands true. You got to nail the protein. Like that's it, right? Like they didn't even love the flavor of Seeger's, but her fish was so undercooked.
She got DQ'd. That's really what it comes down to, is if you didn't cook the protein, you're going to get DQ'd, which is a truism as we've learned in this show. And I thought maybe there would be some loophole exemption for Seeger to be eliminated in this one because he had a very bland, steamed, was it steamed? I don't even know. It was baked. Which baked fish, doesn't really get me going. And the way it looked completely unseasoned on a bed of lentils, I was like, if there was an opportunity to look past the fact that her fish was not just undercooked, but like really undercooked, this is it. And still, they sent Dwayne home, which gives me belief that the integrity of Top Chef is held intact. However, as someone who drafted Dwayne and was a huge fan of Dwayne and super competitive, cutthroat Dwayne on the show, really sad to see Dwayne go.
I know. her energy she brings, that green little striped shirt that she wears during the interviews, like it comes on and you're like, this is going to be something really insightful and probably funny because she's really humorous. So yeah, we've lost her. And I don't think that you or I had we didn't take her really early in the draft. So I don't think that either of us expected such an amazing performance. Dwayne, great job. Great job.
Yeah. This is Nikola Jokic being drafted in the second round of the NBA draft. Like teams, including the Denver Nuggets, passed on him, and then he got drafted late in the second round. And this will be the first time, maybe the last, that Dwen has been likened to Nikola Jokic, the Serbian big man from Sombor. So congratulations, Dwen. You've made it. Truly have made it. She did say that she was the first grade jump rope champion, the beer pong champion of a beer pong tournament that she organized herself, and she's a barista champion. Sara, did you have that moment where the producers said, hey, we'd like to know, Sara, your all-time greatest accomplishments, because we're going to air it on the show, which is the equivalent of the barista, beer pong champion, and jump rope champion?
Yeah, I think they were like, list your accolades. I was like, well, I don't have that many, but you come up with everything that you can, yeah. So
she had a pretty dynamite bio there. Jump rope champion, first grade. That's big deal when you win the first grade jump rope competition.
I won a marshmallow eating competition at summer camp one time. You had to do Chubby Bunny and see how many marshmallows you could get in your mouth. And I won that. And I also won a watermelon eating competition one time. And then I self-reported my cheating in the watermelon competition.
I'm sorry.
I didn't actually eat the watermelon. I just rubbed my face back and forth and turned it into slush. And so that it disintegrated all over the table. And I was young and it was at summer camp and I felt so horrible about it that I reported that I didn't actually eat the watermelon. And they didn't take the challenge. They said that that's just part of the game, Sara. You made the watermelon disappear the fastest. And I was like, wow. Okay, yeah. No,
the utmost integrity, Sara Bradley here.
Yeah, I felt so bad.
Was it because the person who was eating it, truthfully eating it, you felt bad? You saw how much they were going through it, and you're like, I kind of feel like I'm cheating.
No, I mean, I just thought that's what everybody was going to do. I thought everybody was going to be eat down, get all the watermelon out as quick as you can. Yeah, so my two accolades.
Mise en place, because I feel like you are maybe the country's foremost expert on mise en place and Top Chefology. And Sara, how did you feel about the mise en place race and the format of it? Because it was we learned that the Finnish dishwasher company was the sponsor, and they did some amazing segues in here. We'll talk about that. But they go to Green Pond Landing outside of Greenville, and they do, I guess they break off into two teams, but because Lawrence won the last challenge, he doesn't get immunity, but he does get kind of a shortcut to the finale of the mise en place race competition, where he basically doesn't have to do any of the mise en place prep, and he can just do the cook-off with the winning team. Sara, what are your thoughts about the mise en place?
So I love the mise en place challenge. It's my favorite, one of my favorites every season. I didn't love that they gave them shrimp. We're standing next to fresh water. Why are we giving them? I don't know. Maybe they were so soft because they were freshwater farm raised shrimp or something. I'm not sure. I didn't exactly understand the shrimp standing next to a lake. But other than that, everything felt very local. They didn't feel like very hard task to me. You want to know the truth?
Yeah, this is what I was thinking. Was it seemed like when we're drafting the mise en place, foods to prepare, I didn't have these on there, and the only thing that I was like, ooh, that was really impressive, was when Seeger got out the frying thing and then put the grapes into the fryer, and I was like, oh, that is really interesting.
Worst idea ever. I literally wrote down worst idea ever. Not a good way to do it. A scuppernong, you just take your knife, you give it a little poke at the end, and you squeeze it, and the grape will shoot out. You just have to pop them. Like I'm trying to think of like a lychee or lychee or however you want to say it. Like you squeeze it, and it shoots the flesh out. So
like an edamame, you just pop out the beam.
Just goes right out. So they, I think, put a lot of extra work into it, and then they put grease all over it, and then it was like greasy, and so they should. But they didn't know how. I mean, I don't think any of them knew how to do it. If they knew how to do it, they wouldn't have done it like that, because the skin is really, really thick. So you just got to kind of squeeze it. You just give it a little score. So I would have like stuck it with my knife and stuck it, squeezed.
So in the whole watermelon part of this, did it matter that like it's not a whole grape in the pint? You know, could you just mush it in there?
Well, I think even when they were doing it, they like the skin is so thick that when you peel it, like there's a lot of flesh left on the skin. So I think either way, but yeah, you just would have popped them, and then I probably would have laid them all out on the cutting board and just like rolled through them with my fingers, picking the seeds out because they already would have been kind of broken open. I'm going to guess that took a long time.
It seemed like a long time. A lot of standing around, a lot of like hurry up and wait, which is like, oh, yeah. And then it just seemed like very anticlimactic. Oh, this is taking a lot longer than we thought. But of course we don't know. Like it would be fun to see like the timer just to see how long this took, because it did seem like they were standing around quite a bit. So Jonathan, despite trying to do it the old fashioned way and then seeing Seeger go and run and get the fryer and did that whole thing, ends up Seeger finishing in second. And the whole calling aspect, if I remember correctly, in mise en place races in the past, when it's like a team thing, don't they like kind of pick up, like the other team has to wait until they finish that first leg, and then they have to continue with that previous leg in order to complete the task. But this one, it was in rounds. What did you think about that format?
I thought that they were going to make Seeger stay there until he called check, and then he was going to be able to go on to the next task. And that's what I really liked, because I feel like you build some momentum on, like, if you just completely annihilate someone, that should carry over to the next part of the relay race, right? Like they don't make you don't like get to the person to pass the baton and then stop and wait for everybody else to show up and then start running again. Like that doesn't make any sense.
The team aspect, however, Sarah, was, according to Kristen, which was fantastic. We're going to do switching, kind of like how switching to finish Ultimate Quantum gives you unbeatable results. Just perfect segue, product placement, where the team aspect comes in, not in like that you're going to race person to person to person, and you want to, the faster you go on each of the legs, you're going to have a benefit throughout the race. No, the benefit is in switching, that you can say, hey, we're going to have Jonathan, instead of doing Jonathan the first time, we can do Jonathan, then Anthony, and then if Jonathan wants to go again, we can switch back to Jonathan. That's where the power of teamwork is. Brought to you by Finish Quantum, Ultimate Quantum Finished Products.
Yeah. The marketing team on that one. It was the smart one.
Yeah. How do we incorporate dishwashing fluid with a mise en place race on a lake? Well, we've got it figured out here. So Jonathan beats Seeger, gets the first win. First team gets the 3, wins the round. Then they fire off into a different Quickfire challenge. The second thing was the 12 shrimp. You mentioned seems a little too easy, and also it doesn't really make sense with the lake there. Maybe deboning a fish or something like that would have made more sense. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a million other. They could have used any type of land protein. They just, there's land. There's a lake is surrounded by land. They could have used any of that. They could have used something. I don't know. I do love, though, that Dwen, now we know that she is the rice whisperer. She is the shrimp whisperer. I'm like wondering what else she's been whispering about. Because when she says, like, I'm really good at this one thing, she is really, I mean, she's not lying. She does it. Yeah, those shrimp, they did look pretty gnarly. And I also have no clue why those women had gloves on.
I missed this.
Yeah, they had gloves on. Like Sherry had a glove on one hand. I think Dwayne had gloves on both hands. And I feel like you can't like do something very delicate when you have those on. I just would have done it no gloves and I would have washed my hands when I was finished.
This is a new thing I feel like is gloves in a kitchen and serving.
I am not a huge, I don't love gloves in the kitchen. I would rather, I wash my hands so many times, that my hands are dry all the time. I think it gives people their hands stay clean, but they forget that the gloves get dirty, and so they'll do something, and then they'll touch something they shouldn't. But their hands are still clean. So they'll go back to it. So, we use a lot of them, but I prefer like for butchering meat or anything like that, no gloves.
It's such a tactile experience. I feel like you would need that in order to have a leg up in the competition. So you're right. It is. I did not catch that, but as a chef, you have your eye out on those sort of things. And I do think that Dwayne winning this validated how much of a trash talker she is. So when Jonathan was working on his thing, she's like, hey, you want me to phone a friend? Maybe I can help you out here. Maybe call your brother, Brandon. Just roasted him. And as brothers go, it's like, sisters, any sort of sibling rivalry, that's getting under your skin, and you're just going to be, you hate Dwayne over there. And then she says, "I'm the SPQ, I'm the shrimp peeling queen," and she came in and won that as well. So she's like at one point, Jonathan said like, "Hey, can we just double check that her tails were intact on this one?" You saw that, and it's like, oh. She is so good, and I'm so mad that she's out of the competition because she brings out the best in everybody. So Dwayne wins the shrimp competition. Although I would have liked a counter. If Magical Elves is watching, I would have loved to see like, she had 12 and then Sherry had like 4 done, because I didn't get quite a look at how behind Sherry was, and so that's another thing. Then the 1 ounce of pecans. Pecans.
Like the same way that it's paducah, it's pecans.
This
pecans
was really aggravating this episode. You know what I did, Sarah? I actually hand charted the different pronunciations and wanted to see how often pecan was said versus pecan. And Mise before the show said, "Hey, I thought you as a Southerner, you would want pecan." And I'm like, well, this is not a piss bucket, okay? This is a pecan. And NPR has covered this. And I feel like pecan is the correct pronunciation from the Algonquin indigenous peoples of America. They called it a bagan, like a Began. So the derivative is pecan, not pecan.
I like that you're saying, say it again, or P or puh. Like if you had to spell it, puh, like P-A.
Okay, P-U.
Like
so
puh.
I've actually, this is how I have it written down. You want to hear it? P''C-O-N, pecan.
I can get down with that, pecan. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then I have it P-E-E-K-A-N-N, just pecan. I guess. Ugh. Yeah.
Don't even say it. It angers me inside.
But here's the crazy thing. Here's the crazy thing, Sarah. There is a third pronunciation that I did not foresee that I would have to tally in this episode. Lo and behold, pecan. Yep. It's a blend of both things. Pecan, not pecan, not pecan, pecan. And that was pronounced 3 different times in this episode. We had pecan, and pecan. 3 different types of pronunciations. And lo and behold, pecan had the most in this episode. Pecan had 3, pecan had 3, and then pecan had 4. So my skin was crawling throughout this entire quickfire of the 1 ounce of pecans. And I'm already getting inside my own head and I'm mentioning this because Rhoda started with pecan and then went to pecan. So I think all of us are also unsure and kind of inside our own head on how we actually pronounce this. And so, Sara, have you had yourself on TV pronouncing something or on this show that you listen back and you're like, that's not actually how I pronounce it. Why did I say it that way?
Well, I already did it in this pod, you and me. So when we were in Macau, we were all sitting around, and I think Eric had lychee or lychee. I don't know. I don't know chi on his dish, and like Padma, everyone was saying lychee. And then the guy who was from there, the chef that was from there that had this restaurant called Holy Fook, called it lychee. The next thing you know, everybody called it lychee. Even I called it lychee. I was like, well, that's how we must say it then, because he must know. And so still to this day, I'll be like lychee or lychee. I don't know. Like, which one is it? Because I don't know. I don't know which one it is.
Stay strong. It's pecan.
Oh yeah, pecan.
Yeah.
I also feel like mine is not a P apostrophe. It's more of like a P, like a P-A-U-H.
Okay.
Pecan.
A pecan. Yeah. Pecan. Wait, I'm messed up. All right, so it's two syllables, whereas I'm kind of smashing it together. Pecan, right? You're saying it's pecan.
Pecan. Yeah, pecan. Yeah. Almost like a P-U-U con, like K-A-H-N, like pecan.
Pecan team is Rhoda, Seeger, Jonathan, and Lawrence. Lawrence was a big believer in the pecan, but also had, never fished before. So it's not like I don't know. Seeger versus Jonathan in the pecan war, the battle of the pecan. Sara, are you team smashing it like Jonathan did, or Seeger cracking it on the seam?
I probably would have, I don't know if I'm pretty sure I could smash them with my hand.
Like it was like a towel over, like, and then a smush,
Yeah, I think I could do that. I don't think that the problem is he was pulverizing them. He was like just crushing them. And I do think a more gentle crush, you can pull, if you do it right, you can pull the whole nut out in like one big piece. I probably would have used the nutcracker, and then I would have looked over and seen him doing it and been like, oh, let me try, and realized I probably couldn't just, manhandle them like that. So I would go back. But an ounce, like, come on, like, how much is an ounce? Like, that's a ridiculous amount. I don't want to see an ounce. Maybe they had taken so long with the grapes that they were like, we only have enough time for them to do 1 ounce of nuts.
Because then they have to go fishing, and then they got to go cooking, Yeah. So maybe, 1 ounce of pecans. I don't even know. I don't even know. Are you supposed to eyeball that? Is like, I think I'm ready. Like, Tom, check.
Well, they had it on a little scale. They had it like the cup. They had like tarred out or tared. That's also another one. I don't know if it's tar or tear. And I think it depends on where you were.
Ooh, tear is where I think I might have learned it in 3rd grade, when you tear out the tear. Mm-hmm. When you weigh it before you actually put the thing in there. Is what you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah. So they had like a little scale. But they weren't like Jonathan wasn't putting it in
because then Tom was like, I got to take out all the shells in here, the pecan shells. And so then they had to separate the shells that were in the clusters of meat, and then they put it into the thing. And then, oh man, either way, it was a great mise en place race, but there are some technicalities here that I think I got lost in the weeds on, which it's fine. It was an A- of a mise en place. Then the 4th thing of the 5 trials, and I wanted to know what the 5th one was, but we didn't get to see that, was shucking and kerneling 5 ears of corn.
There was a lot of silk in that corn. A lot of silk in that corn. It's just everywhere. Silk everywhere. I hated it. That should have been part of it. Like you can say like, let's do a mise en place challenge, but then to have Seeger raise his hands for the pecans, and then all of a sudden you see Tom picking out the shells, and then they weigh it to see if it's an ounce. That's not right. Tom should have gone over there and stirred it up and said, I still see some shells. Go back. Because what if Jonathan had an ounce of all perfect shell or perfect, meat? So I didn't like that. And then on the corn, my God, there was so much silk in Rhoda's corn. I did notice Anthony did not have any silk on his corn. So I don't know.
But who got the win there? Rhoda did. And you, as an impartial observer of this, even though you drafted Rhoda, feel like it should have gone to Anthony on this one, or he should have gotten the benefit of the doubt on that. Like they were like really close in the timing of it. And then there was the whole appeal process that Tom was like, nope, I see some kernels here, going back, resetting. Time starts now. And then Anthony does it. And then he still sees some kernels on there. And then it goes back to Rhoda. Rhoda wins, but the whole silk thing should have been adjudicated.
Yeah. Not only that, but they said to take the kernels off. They had them like scraping the cobs. So there's a kernel, but then there's like the stuff that stays on the cob. In the chef world, or you can do this in the home world too, anywhere world. I would have I will rub that stuff off the back of the corn because that is going to go on like cream corn or it's going to go in soup. Or we just steep those cobs like in whatever milk or dairy we're going to use or broth we're going to use for the, the finished product. But what they were scraping off of the cob was not a kernel, right? They'd already cut the kernels off. He was just being, Tommy, little Tommy boy over there. But those weren't kernels. They'd already cut the kernels off. Now you just want them to cut that little like germ off that lives down inside of there. And I didn't think that was needed. But, what could the fifth one have been?
Ooh, Sara Bradley. What is the title of the food producer? What is the culinary
producer?
Is that the person who would decide the fifth?
I'm thinking maybe, pick and chiffonade, 2 heads of flat leaf parsley or something like that, like something that would have been a knife skill, but they would have had to do a couple of things to it because they don't need another protein. They've got nuts, they've got fruit, they've got vegetable. They would have needed, maybe an herb or, I don't know.
Here's the other thing. Got two other bones to pick, if that is a mise en place reference there. One, I want to see Lawrence go. I want to see him do the mise en place. Didn't that we didn't get to see Lawrence compete because it's kind of like having, I don't know, a bye week in the NFL or it's like I kind of want to see, and he got the bye week and I wanted to see him compete. 2, can we get some shade for him? He was wearing a black shirt, black hat. And the judges had some shade and he didn't have, and the competitors had some shade, but he had to sit over there in that like wooden or that cement amphitheater in the background. And I just felt bad for him. So I wanted some shade for Lawrence and I wanted him to compete in this race.
Maybe they could have said whichever team is in the lead or whichever team is behind. Maybe it's in the lead. Like if they want to sub him in for the last, number 5, they could have brought him in. But if they didn't want him, they didn't have him. And if that was the case as Lawrence, I would not want to have had to go on a team to play because then it would have been the possibility that I lost and didn't get to go.
Have you seen enough of Lawrence to scout him as a prep cook, as someone who can mise en place the hell out of something? Like, would you have picked him as a number 1 seed here? Because they clearly seem to think that Sherry is the number 1 seed when it comes to mise en place.
I wouldn't know. I mean, I definitely would have thought Sherry or Rhoda, or I would have picked one of the girls as the mise en place, the quick one.
Yeah, we're bumbly idiots, us dudes. So I would have gone with that. Although Eric Ajapong seems to think that he could go toe to toe with you in a mise en place race. So
yeah, I mean, foot race for sure, he would whoop my ass. Yeah. But if we had to fine dice some shallots, I would fucking destroy you, Eric.
Yeah. Well, he's not here to defend himself, but I will take your word for it. Although we probably have a lot of evidence. Yeah. All right. So then they have to do this quickfire after it, where they had to cook with all the ingredients, the pecans, the corn, the scuppernongs, which I got to admit, as a North Carolinian, Not familiar with the scuppernong, so I feel like I have to return my North Carolina card on that one. But they did cook with that, which is it's very sweet, and so it packs a lot of punch. You're not going to miss it in a dish. So that, the shrimp, pecans, and then the corn. So Lawrence does this shrimp lo mein, which was overly sweet. As soon as he presented it, they asked like, "Where's the sugar?" Or Tom says, "Where's the sugar coming from?" That's a death sentence there. He's in the bottom along with Seeger, who does the soup, the ají blanco soup, which was not served cold. He did it as like a hot bisque or whatever. Garlic was too strong. I kind of get the sense that Seeger, they're building up this whole Seeger is not a fan of the judges' critiques. They gave it sass or something like that later in the episode, where it's like, oh, how sassy was that? Like, I just feel like they're building this up.
Yeah, I mean, he straight up talked back to Gail. She's like, did you think that, putting a sauce on the plate was a good idea? And he was like, well, I thought the spoon could have done that. And I was like, Ooh, yeah. And you could tell on Gail's face, she did not like it. I think that like, he doesn't put very much on the plate, which is fine. But when you don't give them very many things, you have to be like, they have to be perfect, and somebody even says that about like Jonathan's taco. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's also not a great idea to be like, oh, this is ajo blanco inspired just because you put some garlic scapes in it. Like, I put garlic in every soup. Should it be like a garlic ajo blanco inspired soup? The soup wasn't white. It wasn't all garlic. There was lots of other things in it. I think that I'm wondering if Seeger's just a little bitter that he did them the favor of coming back to fill the position that they needed filled, and he's still just getting blasted by the judges. It's like, not that he should get any special treatment, but he doesn't seem to enjoy their critiques. And I feel like we're seeing a lot of that because we also hear Sherry talk about like, if you love a dish, you have to stand behind it, So I'm wondering if they're not digging what the judges are saying.
If Seeger was a little miffed about the judges' critiques and, Sherry and all that, after this edit with the hilarious reindeer hooves, I don't know if you caught the sound effects that Magical Elves threw in there when they were like, hey, Seeger runs around like he's a deer and he prances around like a reindeer. And they added like hooves sounds, like as he runs around. Oh my God. I was loving that. With like the little Easter eggs sometimes that Magical Elves put in there on the edit that just send me.
Listen, y'all, the lake episodes are always amazing episodes. You put people near water and it's a good episode. It's like people are in a good time. They're in a good spot in their head. They're digging it. And so give us some more like water episodes, like the whitewater one. That was a good episode. Anytime they're out on a boat, great episode. Yeah. Everybody's excited.
The boat, the whole fishing expedition was led. Of course, Dwen is the MVP of that, but she almost came in there with another $10,000 or the Quickfire win, because when she did the butter poached shrimp with romesco sauce, they loved it. It was cohesive, but actually the win went to Rhoda, which looked basic, but it was not basic in flavor, and they really love Rhoda's dish. I thought Dwayne was going to pull this off, and they go and they have to do a I can't believe we just blew past the opening here on Rhoda. Sara, when they did like a little segment about Rhoda to open the show, she says, "My parents are really proud of me, but I'm their oldest kid and I'm not married and I haven't given them grandchildren. Oh, so that's why she's over 40 and hasn't kept a man. It would finally give them something else to talk about." Oh my God.
Yeah, I know you, Rhoda.
What a thing. Yeah. The thing to open with right after Mother's Day, to talk about that was, I'm glad she laughed at the end of it, because at the end of it, I was like, oh, this is some dark stuff, deep like therapist stuff that she's letting out on air here.
Well, I have a lot of friends, and like, you know, we all have a lot of friends, but I got a lot of those Asian girls and like, and boys, and they, especially the girls though, I feel like there's an expectation that they should be like married with the child when the, you know, and I feel like you get that in the South sometimes too, right? I'm also Jewish. So like Jewish mother guilt, I never had it. My mother never guilted me for anything. Thanks, Beverly. Not true, but, I feel
Catholic
her
boy
pain.
from the Northeast, so
Yeah.
a lot of it is just multiply as many of your beings as possible, wife up early, and yeah, create huge families, Catholic families. So yes,
So I think we all feel her suffering. You know, I gotta say, both of the seasons I did, no one ever came back from, I can't think of someone that came back from Last Dance Kitchen and was there for a while. Because on the first season, it was Brother, and then he was there for one episode. And then I can't remember who came back for the second part of it. I can't even think of it. Oh, Michelle, but she was gone for one episode and she came right back. She wasn't like, neither of them were even, you know, gone. And then on the other ones, it didn't happen that way either for 20. And Rhoda missed a good part of the season. Like, I feel like she missed a lot of time when they were all bonding. And I'm feeling this, like, I don't know how well she's integrating back into it right away. Like, we see her weeping at the end.
Ooh, there's a lot there at the weeping. She's talked about survivor's remorse, you know, where survivor's guilt is when Dwayne goes home. I think Rhoda just feels like, this isn't fair. This isn't right that I'm still here and Dwayne's going home.
Yeah. You know, and she's, you know, we see like her being like, well, oh, if I, you know, had more eggs in last episode, and Sherry was like, well, I had eggs, you know, like, so it's like, you kind of get this, you know, she's talking about, I think it's the beginning of this when she's like, you know, we got to just keep pushing each other and helping each other. And they're all like looking at each other like, fuck off. Like, we're here. We've made it this far. We're trying to get to the finish line. You know, I feel like it's, little coming back in, a little reintegration. I don't know what the word is. She seems to be struggling to find her spot in the team, right?
Yeah. How would you do on a fishing expedition? Feel like, Sarah, you would have been like Dwayne, just reeling them in nonstop?
I have a hat that says Legendary Fisher. And I bought it at a Bass Pro Shop because I never catch anything. Never. Yeah. I never catch.
You get skunked every time.
Nothing. I got nothing. My kids catch more fish than me when we go fishing. But I love to go fishing. I like to go fishing. It's like so relaxing. One of these days I'm going to try noodling. I'm going to gather my courage and I'm going to noodle a catfish out of a bathtub. No, you're shaking your head. No,
I can't. I'm like the whole, wasn't the guy from Kentucky who gets like noodles for like snapping turtles?
Oh, is that dude from Kentucky? Probably. Fuck. Yeah. Yeah. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. This guy just like goes like snapping turtle hunting and noodle and just like sticks his arm down things and just like pulls them right out. And it's like, that scares that. I also been stung by a stingray once, and stepping on one. And so like the whole idea of like not being able to see something underwater and hurt. I'm not a fan of that.
I mean, I am not either, but I would like to do it. I'd like to come up out of the water like an Amazonian woman, like bust up out of the water and have this like catfish on my arm and just like, if y'all are watching this podcast right now, I'm like shaking it, like what, twist it like a helicopter? Is that what they say?
Yeah, Petey Pablo. Yeah.
Oh man, like that's what's happening. I'm coming up out of the water. I've got a catfish attached to my arm. I mean, I knew they weren't going to catch catfish. I doubted they were going to catch any. Those were bass fishermen. Those guys, they were there to catch fish.
I love this twist. I love this like little like local culture thing that the Bassmaster Classic is there, and in this Lake Hartwell Lake, whichever one it is. I apologize. I think it's
Green Palm Landing, where the Bassmaster Classic takes place.
Mm-hmm. And I think that is like the area in which the staging happens at the Bassmaster.
Oh, nice.
So, and you could see that Tom was in his element, and therefore Gail and Kristen were in their element, just like supporting him and he just wants to be out on a boat fishing. And they had the signs out. Did they have that? Did they have signs out on the houseboat party that I don't know, you might not even remember it. But they got into it. It was awesome. And they would like go buzz around everywhere and, hey, Sherry, how's it going? Look at the sign, hook it and cook it and all this stuff.
It was Bass or Bust. I think I saw Bass or Bust. Yeah, I loved it. And then Tom, just Tom laid back, relaxing. I would have liked to seen Tom catch a fish.
If he did, they would have showed it. So I've got my theory that he got skunked too. And
absolutely
not happy about that. Tom's like, no, we do not have any of this footage. Please do not make it to air. So the fishing derby happens. That's fun. They only had 60 minutes out there, which in fishing terms, that's nothing. That's like no time at all. So I was really worried about them all getting skunked. Only a couple of them did. You had Rhoda and Lawrence didn't catch a single thing, which is no surprise given how Lawrence felt bad for him. But it's the casting for him was not on point. And he admitted, he's like, I've never fished before, so whatever. Dwayne catches 5 fish, 2 got released for undersized, which is kind of like this weird thing where there was a prize for the smallest fish, but only the smallest qualified fish. So they had to throw back their fish that were not of the qualifying weight. And then of the qualifying weights, she had the smallest fish is how I read it, because the little blurb at the bottom said she caught 5, but 2 of them had to be released back into the water because they were too small. So I don't think that those fish actually made it to the weighing session. So was it really the smallest fish? I would have loved to have if they could award the best minnow that they caught.
Well, not only that, but they didn't allow her to use them for the weigh-in, but they counted them towards the most fish caught. Right? Because Seeger caught 4.
Yeah.
So I would have thought that hers would have been 3. Like she would have had 3. Like I get that you caught
3
them.
qualified fish is the count of the official fish that you caught. Even if you did catch 5, only 2 of them or only 3 of them would count, you're saying.
Have you ever caught a fish? Because I have caught fish. I'm just not very good at it. And then you put it back in and then you swear you catch the same fish like 5 minutes later.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
We used to fish a lot off the docks at Kentucky Lake.
You're like, dumb fish, I'm sorry.
And we would get like bluegill. And I swear we'd catch one and then my brother would put it back in the water and then I'd catch it again. I mean, I don't know. I just felt like that's what always happened. So
they just wanted to hang out with you, Sarah.
Ugh.
You've got an energy about you that they're just like, I know I'm going to get this, like, gouge my mouth out here, but I really want to hang out. We have this chickadee that we kind of saved the other day in our front yard that now every time we eat outside, out on the deck as a family, the chickadee just like plops right next to our table and just hangs out. Yeah.
There you go.
It's so sweet. So that's the bluegill that was just wanting to get hooked by Sarah again. I think really what we're talking about here is we need to go on a fishing trip. And hang out and cook our fish in a way that they had to on this show, where they had to catch their fish, but there was like an inventory of caught fish. So if you did get skunked, it wasn't like you had nothing to cook with. All sorts of different types of bass. And the Sherry had 1 fish. It was a big one, a 2-pound, 3-ounce fish. Then Anthony had 3 fish. 1 had to be released. Jonathan had the biggest fish, was I think 2 3/4 pounds, and he gets this monster trophy and 30 minutes of extra cook time. The $50 and $5 extra, so $55 extra for prep, for shopping for Dwen. I kind of think in my head the extra 30 minutes would be more valuable to me. And it proved that way because Dwen didn't even need the extra money in her shop, and she actually lent out the budget to other people, which was very nice of Dwen. And she got canned for that, which is, again, protesting. Seeger should have gone home. Wish Dwen didn't have to go home because she was so nice. Maybe she shouldn't have been so nice, Sarah.
I don't know. I mean, the thing was, at first I was like $100, but then I realized they only had to cook 5 plates and they didn't even have to buy protein. So like $180 $55 was a lot of money. Like she didn't need all that money. $100 for 5 people. You don't even have to pay for the protein. Totally good. Yeah. So I would have rather taken the 30 minutes, I think.
30 minutes?
Yeah. And it would have allowed me to be the last one to serve. So yeah.
Oh, you're so good at that.
I don't want to be last.
Yeah. I did not pick up on that, but that he was going to be the last one with the beer battered fried fish taco. I learned a lot in this episode. I felt like this was a good episode, not just for the fishing aspect of it, but also the prep or how to cook the fish. You got a lot of different styles of cooking. You had the baked spotted bass, you had the steamed, you had the pan seared, and there were a lot of different poached. That's right. In ways that I feel like other cooking shows might not show the cooking process all that much. Whereas this one on Top Chef, I think they really want to pay homage to the labor of cooking. And in this episode, I think it shined through.
Well, I think that we're also like, this is usually about my favorite time in this season. Because we get as much time, but we have half the amount of chefs. So we really get to see a lot more of like the one-on-one interviews. You get to learn a lot more about just them. And I also think the kitchens aren't so crowded. They can do things that are just a little more interesting because they don't have 15 people that they have to like lug around. Pretty much done with team challenges, usually at this point. There was,
and you're not tight asses anymore. Like you're like later in the competition, you're so nervous about getting because you're so close to the finish line. I feel like there's a little less tension on that front in this part because they're not in the finale portion.
Yeah, the finale is nerve-wracking. The finale is like not so much with Kelsey and I. I mean, we shared a hotel room. We didn't have to, but we did. We just talk about our dishes all night long, just like little girls, but not that way with Buddha and Gabri, like it's really competitive at the end, but this is like it's the sweet spot where like you're close, you're almost there. You don't have to be embarrassed by your performance. You've made it really far, like you've done well. You've had enough screen time for like to be memorable kind of thing. Yeah. But there was a thing I saw. The pin boning of the fish. Like number one. So I saw Jonathan and he was like, it took me 30 minutes to break down my fish. I was like, what the fuck? And then he served just like so you'd cut the fish off and there's the top part of the fish. It's kind of the big, thick loin part of it. And then you have the belly and the pin bones sit right in between that big loin on the top and the little thin part in the belly. And I saw him pin boning it all. And then I saw the portions that he fried and he just served the top loin. So why didn't he just cut the belly off? And I saw a lot of them doing that. If it had been me, I would have just served probably the perfect loin because I only needed 5 pieces. And so I'd had 6 fillets. I would have made these absolute perfect pieces that all would have cooked evenly. And it would have taken 5 minutes to break down that fish. Most of them looked like they were scaled. There was one that I saw Sherry working on, and it looked like it had the scales on it. I don't know if maybe she bought that one. It looked different than everybody else's. Yeah,
I thought for sure we were going to get a bone. Like the way that they were doing the edit, that they were like, oh, got to really meticulously get these bones out. I thought for sure there was going to be a Tom being like, hold on. Did you get a bone in there? Yeah, we'll talk about it later. One of those things. We didn't get that. And you're right, is the whole, now let me ask you this. Does deboning it, the belly, give you options in case your loin doesn't work out, that by also doing the belly, you're giving yourself a plan B that might be helpful later?
I mean, no, the belly on those bass is so thin. I mean, it and the other thing is like sometimes the belly could be a little over by the time the big fat piece, and cuddling, getting all the syllables mixed up.
Syllables mixed up.
Syllables. By the time the big like fat part of the loin, the top part of the loin, I don't know. I just would have preferred to have these like beautiful paves of fishes, like this perfect cut piece. I also noticed nobody scored their skin. That would have been the first thing I did. So,
yep.
Yeah. So, let me give you the science of it. So you put a piece of fish in the pan. If you're watching us, you'll get it. If not, close your eyes. Not if you're driving, but just imagine. Put the fish in the pan, and the heat causes things to contract, right? So, or when it's in there, the skin goes, and when the skin contracts up, you get this little air pocket underneath the skin. So what you need to do, so that's why you saw everybody pushing the fish down into the pan. So they're pushing it back down so that there's even contact with all of the skin there. If you score that fish, it works even better because there's like a little bit of area for the fish to kind of like the skin to kind of stretch. So you can get a much crispier skin with a score. I mean, I don't think anybody didn't have crispy skin. They loved everybody's skin except Dwayne, but I would have scored my skin, probably would have taken the belly off, but they had 4 tops out of 7 people. So I think everybody did a pretty good job. But
Rhoda helped out Dwayne. Dwayne was running out of time and said, "Hey, can someone help me? Can you help me with, getting tomatoes on the plate?" And she's like, "I got you, girl." She comes and help. And which is, I think also a reason why she got so emotional at the end was, that's her girl.
Yep.
And not to say that she and Sherry don't get along, but clearly that there was a alliance between Rhoda and Dwayne that was a kinship that they really, really helped each other out and got each other. And it was really tough to see because as soon as she's pulling off that skin and it's not coming off, she knew and we knew that it was over at that point.
I knew immediately. Also, I poach my fish skin side down, right? And I feel like the rest of the world does also. Number one, when you're poaching it, it can become flaky. And if the flesh is down, when you try to take it out, it may flake off. It's a really delicate fish. So if you put the skin side down, it acts as something to make sure all of the fish is held together. Plus, that is the part that needs the most cook. So I would put it closest to the, to the heat, especially if I was going to pull the skin off like she was planning to. So I think when I saw her put it skin side up, I immediately thought, I don't know about that. It wasn't even submerged. Like the skin wasn't submerged, and I feel like it needed to be submerged. It didn't get that like really delicate, soft skin that you get with poached fish. But
yeah, and the broth seems so good. The pineapple, tomato, bok choy, all of it looked so good. I thought it was going to save her.
I don't know. You know what we saw? We've seen a lot of this season, which I feel like I haven't seen in a long time, is that circular 1990s plating, like late 80s, 90s. Like Sherry really loves like an old classic French plating where it's like sauce down, 3 cherry tomatoes, 3 green peppers, 1 parsley sprig. Like she likes that. I mean, it fits with her food. But we saw Dwayne do it again on this one. So we're seeing, I feel like that kind of like retro, and yes, things from the 80s and the 90s, I guess would be retro. It hurts my body to say, but we see a lot of it. It feels really old school to me. But they set it down in front of him and everybody was like, oh, and they thought Dwayne's dish looked so beautiful. But all I could think was like those little perfectly 5-placed tomatoes. Like it looks weird to me.
I love a good hot and sour soup. So that's the dish I wanted to eat. God damn, Lawrence, you're good. You're so good. It's The Cantonese steamed fish with this like soy fish stock with bok choy, rice, scallions, and ginger. Danielle Brooks, by the way, really fun on this episode. She was awesome as a guest judge. You always want someone who understands the assignment. You know, I'm there to entertain, but also give some food takes. And she's like, Tom, excuse me while I do this real quick. And she just starts dancing. And Tom's like, you go, girl. You got this. I thoroughly enjoyed her presence on the show.
The dish I wanted to eat was rotas. Those are like all of my favorite
French cooking.
Fennel puree is one of my favorites. Artichokes in Barigol, one of my favorites. I was pretty surprised she whipped those out in that like 90-minute cook. That mussel and clam meuniere. If you don't know what meuniere is, it means like it's French for like in the style of the miller's wife. Because normally you would put a little flour, you would dredge some flour onto your fish. And so that's why it's like the miller's wife. And then you make this like brown butter, lemon, parsley, sometimes caper, all goes in there. And you're like coating the fish with this meuniere sauce. So that, it kind of holds on to that. It's like my favorite thing. Those are all of my favorite flavors. And that is the dish that I would eat. And that is a dish you would see like somehow live in some way at Freight House. We would like Southern it up a touch, but yeah, loved it. And it went perfect with freshwater fish. There ain't nobody growing grains with a mill next to the ocean, right? Like that is a freshwater fish preparation. And I just thought it was so smart and I wanted to eat that one.
Yeah. And I love that she, busted out, oh, people don't think like me, this Hawaiian girl is going to be able to bust out like some French cooking, old school technique. And she crushed it. Mm-hmm. Right. And technique wise, can you just explain a little bit like on the artichoke side, just like what, like why it's so impressive that she did it in a 90-minute cook?
So artichokes and Barigol, she had some like, they weren't huge. They were kind of like a medium-sized artichoke. So it looked like she had to partially turn them. And when you say turn, you have to cut off all the bad parts. If they're real little, you can just do it with a peeler. They weren't like huge ones. So she peeled those. She made a broth that was full of like tons of white mirepoix, white wine, lemon juice. When I say white mirepoix, like leeks, parsnips, celery, all this stuff. She poached those artichokes in that liquid, and then you let them cool in that liquid and they absorb this like really, I don't want to say acidic, but this like really kind of like acidic broth, and just then they don't oxidize. Oh my God. They're my favorite way to eat an artichoke. She made that mussel and clam meuniere sauce with like all the fish scraps, all the mussels, all the clams. Then she emulsified butter into it. Like it just looked so perfect. The fish was cooked perfect.
Yeah.
The skin, I heard at one point when they cut into it, I could hear somebody's skin. Fennel puree. You gotta, and just the whole dish, everything about it. It just looked so perfectly executed. Artichokes, best way to cook them. And then you just leave them in that liquid in the fridge. But that artichokes and Barigol, second best way. How do you eat an artichoke?
Taking notes. I love a good artichoke. And I guess it's like one of the hardest things to break down, or to mise en place too. I don't know.
It is. It's like, I want to see that on a mise en place race.
There you go.
And I would dominate because I used to have to turn cases of artichokes at a job. But my second favorite way to eat an artichoke is to put it in the microwave. You put it in the microwave, you cut the top off a little bit, and you stand it upside down, and you put a little bit of lemon juice on the bottom of the plate, and you put it in the microwave. And the lemon juice kind of like steams up into it, and then it gets all soft inside. And then you do the old school thing where you like pull the leaves off.
Yeah.
And you eat the meat off the leaf, dip it into butter. And then finally, when you get down to like the heart of the artichoke, it's all soft. It's, you guys, microwave, lemon juice, 5 to 6 minutes, 8 minutes, whatever it is. You poke it with a cake tester till it's done. That is a good, I might eat one of those for dinner.
I know. I was just going to say, now I want an artichoke and dip it in some mayo. which is kind of like a blend between the last two episodes here. Is my mom used to boil her artichokes, and then we would eat them with the leaves. And I always loved I'm getting nostalgic now just thinking about it. But taking that heart, once you carve out all the little hairs at the bottom, and just dumping it in your bowl of mayo or your bowl of butter, and just it is the most delicious, unctuous. Oh, it's so good. Just eat that whole fucking stem and the heart. Yeah.
It's like picking crab, right? Like sometimes when I pick crab, I'll like pick it all and I'll make a little pile of crab meat to the side, right? Like I'm not going to eat it all at once. I'm going to have like my little reward of like all the beautiful big fat pieces that I pick out perfect. And I feel like that's what the artichoke is, right? Like you got to work for it. You don't just get to get right in there. But that's what's so pretty about artichoke barrel is it's the perfect bite. It's all of the things. It's that acidic bite and just yummy, yummy.
Speaking of bite, Seeger got bit in the ass with he did a baked spotted, you like that, spotted bass with braised lentils, pepper sofrito, and dates with cardamom vinaigrette. Okay. Maybe I'm just being too harsh because Dwen's on my squad, but nothing excited me about this dish. I'm sorry.
Number one, it wasn't baked. He put it under the salamander. I would call that broiled, like baked, you put it in an oven. I mean, he put it into something where it had like one direction of heat from the top. He put it into the salamander. He said he put olive oil and salt on it and put it under the salamander. That's not baked. That's broiled, motherfucker. And then the lentils with the pepper sofrito, the dates, the card, like that all sounded like it could have been really yummy. And what if he had just like pureed a tiny bit of the lentils so there was like a little bit of the creaminess to it and kind of buttered it out more like a ragu? That would have provided like a really sauciness to it. Maybe if he'd had just a little bit of salad or a few leaves, and that's where he dressed with like the date and cardamom vinaigrette. So instead of it being all so, here's a piece of fish and here's everything else together, if he had taken those flavor profiles but just broken them apart a little bit, I think he would have done much better. And I agree with the judges. Roasting that fish would have been good because he would have had that like caramelized, like it would have been like flavorful, and he just gave them baked fish.
Modern salamanders take their name from the 18th century salamander, which is the tool of choice for toasting the top of a dish. It consisted of a thick plate of iron attached to the end of a long handle with 2 feet or rests arranged near the iron plate for propping the plate over the food to be browned. Its name, in turn, was taken from the legendary salamander, a mythical amphibian that was thought to be immune to fire. Did not know this. Well,
all right, y'all. You see those things and it's like, I was today years old when I learned this happened like 2 weeks ago. I said to one of the cooks, I was like, just put it in the salamander. And he was like, the what? And I was like, well, like our salamander lives under the grill. And somebody was like, why do they call it a salamander? And I was like, this is such an obvious answer, y'all. Because like when you put it in, it's one color. And when it comes out, it's a different color. And they were like, what? And I was like, like a salamander. And they're like, Sarah, that's a chameleon that changes color. And I swear, 44 years or however many years I've known what a salamander is, I thought you put it under and it was one color and it came out and it was a different color. So yeah, obviously it's a salamander. But guess what? Salamanders aren't the thing that change colors.
No, they're not, Sarah.
No, they're not. And I said it with such confidence.
So funny how much confidence you were like, obviously. Are you thinking of a chameleon?
I was like,
and you're just a wave of dread just showers over. Wait a minute. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be able to laugh at yourself. And this was a moment where I laughed at myself because everyone was laughing at me. I was just sure that's why they called it that. No, that's not true.
Is that, did you know what I just read? Like the etymology of the
No, I did not. Because I thought they called it a salamander because it changed colors.
That's so. And now they better call it a chameleon in that kitchen. That's how they have to call it.
For the rest of my life. And they're never going to let me live it down either. It's been brought up numerous times since then.
Sarah, thank you for being vulnerable on this show.
But yeah, that wasn't baked. Okay.
I can understand what Sherry's feeling now. She's been complaining a little bit. I understand. They loved her dish. Why is she in the middle? They brought out 4 chefs to be in the top, and then they left her in the middle. And I thought that they really liked her green curry fish dish, and it seemed like maybe that was I don't know. I would feel a certain way. Why is she in the middle?
Sauce, right? Too much sauce. They said it was a little heavy-handed on the sauce, and she called it a papaya salad. But I don't know if there was a papaya salad on it, because they said, and what are the other stuff? And she was like, oh, I used a tomato and daikon, my favorite. So I'm wondering if maybe she didn't have green papaya, so she subs it for something else. Those were they weren't negative comments. I mean, Kristen thought it was, like heavy-handed on the sauce, but it wasn't a negative comment. It was just a question. But I think they wanted her to know that she was not in the top, but she was not in the bottom. Like that felt very deliberate that they didn't bring her out.
She got 2 points in our scoring system. So she was not in the bottom 3. It didn't really matter because Dwayne got sent home. Anthony with the North African dish, the spotted bass with poblano, goosey sauce, and a yassa. Tom was very happy with his dish in ways that salute to Eric for introducing North African flavors to Top Chef, because people after him are now, basking in the glory of North African food on the show. And so Anthony was in the top with this one. Any notes on Anthony's dish? Because the bitterness, they kept talking about the bitterness, that it actually worked complementary to each other. And it, I think he thought this one through, the way that he was cooking that fish, that he wanted to offset and complement that bitterness.
Yeah. They said it was like very focused. And my first experience with a goosey stew was with Eric. And he made it and served it to the judges. And we were in Macau. It was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 people left. And they were like, we were just really like, the texture was very off-putting, And he very proudly said, no, this is the texture should be. Like, this is how it should be. Like, this is not, this is what it is. And so I was pretty interested to see what his goosey stew looked like. And it looked like it had some texture to it. So, I thought that dish looked beautiful. I love that he's taking like a little bit of where he is and putting it into the style of food that he cooks, like we're seeing just a little bit like, that dish looked delightful, and his fish looked perfectly cooked. I wanted everything about that, but I agree. Did I want Rhoda's or did I want Lawrence's? Because man, Lawrence's Cantonese steamed fish, right? Anything you cook for someone that becomes your spouse on Top Chef, you cook that dish, winner, spotted steamed fish dinner. Like, they loved it. So he served it with a side of rice. I don't know if he needed a side of rice, but he did serve it with a side of rice.
He did. And Lawrence, he, as a way to appeal to the judges on Top Chef, that he is just kind of the Top Chef whisperer, is, I feel like I remember it really hit me when he brought in the sweet tea in the Cracker Barrel episode, the Quickfire, where he's like, I'm going to add some sweet tea to my syrup or whatever it was, because I want to incorporate this with the challenge. The way he tells the stories, the way he has this personality that comes through. Every time he presents a dish, he is very charismatic. I just think Lawrence has this energy about him that does very well on this show, that really complements how technically skilled he is, whatever it is, that he's very approachable. And none of his cooking feels like tweezery or way above everyone's pay grade. He's just, I think, very humble in the way he presents his dishes. And I think he just has this, he cuts through any sort of the tension on the show. And I think he's really fun. And I just think he's a great Top Chef contestant.
I look back, something I really love in a Top Chef contestant, and maybe it's one of the reasons that I really liked Lawrence. This is his second profession. And I wrote that down in my notes as to reasons why he had something else. And so I feel like people who did something and then they realized that they weren't happy doing that, they still wanted to do food. Like he grew up in food. He left and tried to get away. He came back to food. I think there's something that's always been around. It's always been there. And so the way he speaks about food, the way he thinks about it, is a little bit more mature, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like he didn't just walk out of high school and start cooking right away. He lived some other life. And so I think that sometimes that maturity comes across in his food is that it's really not over the top crazy food. It's not, they say flawless technique. It's steamed fish, that's an easy thing. He builds his own little steamer. But flawless technique, you would think like, oh, steamed fish, but we saw that poached fish didn't go right and baked fish didn't go right. And, these other things. So, I would have liked to have heard a little bit more about, the chef from Chubby Fish. I can't think of his name right now.
James London. Yeah.
Yes. He asked like, what is this chili that's on there? And I wish I could have seen a little bit of that because we didn't hear about that when we just saw the ginger scallion oil. But there was some other sauce that was on there that we didn't hear about, right?
Mm-hmm. And it was a very different dish than Jonathan's, who had the extra time. Jonathan said, I'm going to do fried. And they played this up big time as, whoa, you're going to fry this fish? And he's like, hell yeah. And he's loving it. He had like a couple trial runs in the fryer and he's like, this is perfect. I thought they were setting us up for a big disappointment where they're biting into this gooey, oily fry fish, and they're like, "This is not cooked well." But man, he had this avocado. He made his corn tortilla, which Danielle was like, "I'm normally not a fan of corn tortilla, but this was fantastic." And he did this the cabbage slaw, chipotle remoulade. I mean, it looked visually kind of stunning how big this filet was. And even I feel like Gail was like, she says, is this a taco? Like, is this what you're presenting? Because she was confused by it at first because I've eaten many tacos in my life, but that meat that basically looked like a fish and chips, just huge filet of fish on there. Filet of fish. I'm eating it because I'm trying to watch my weight. That's a Jack Black Tenacious D reference. It was a big freaking filet there on the taco. So you had I don't know, is that harder? Is that harder to cook right? Because it is a thicker piece of meat to get it all the way cooked through on a big meat stick. That's probably a little tougher.
I thought it was like it's almost the shape of the tortilla, the circumference of the tortilla to the size of the filet was perfect because when they closed, then they just barely overlapped, I don't ever want a taco that like I can't overlap the tops because I want to be able to like kind of fold in it. I really wish he had, it would have been fun to see him win, right? Fucking avocado mousse, cabbage slaw, chipotle remoulade. I would cook that dish.
Yeah,
I would fry a piece of fish. Sure.
I think Tom loved this, and this was an episode that spoke to Tom's heart. He really enjoyed the cooking on this one, the fishing on this one. This was an ode to Tom Colicchio and the French. It seems like a lot of these dishes could have been on his menu, and ultimately, Dwayne got. I wanted to note here because now that you've had it in my brain, the way that Tom intros the person, I thought Sear was going to go home at first. And then when he said, but then one of these fell a little bit short, I thought that was a nod to that she didn't cook her food long enough and that the timing was too short on her cook. And then as soon as he said one of the dishes fell short, I was like, oh, Dwayne's going home.
Yep. If it had been about the flavor, he would have said something, about the flavor, but he literally was talking about this one ingredient wasn't, done right. Went home, Lawrence with the big slap of flavor, as the judges said.
Big
Big
slap of
slap of
flavor.
flavor. I know 2 in a row, 4
Yeah.
out of 10. That's a lot. That's solid.
It is a lot. You had 22 points in this week's fantasy scoring. I had -4. In the last 2 weeks, Sarah, you have doubled your lead. You went from 47 when I was closing the gap. I saw, I was in your shadow and you could hear my footsteps. And then you just turned around and slap in the face and I went down like a wall of bricks. I have lost 20. The last 2 weeks, I've had -7 points. You've had 38. And now your lead is 146 to 54, a +92 win margin. I don't even know if I'm statistically, mathematically qualified or
How many people do you have
yet.
left?
Wow. Okay, fine. I've one, and it's Anthony, and you have 5 chefs left in the competition. I've got Anthony, so this feels unfair fight right now that you've got 5 chefs. You got Sherry, you got Rhoda, Jonathan, Lawrence, and Seeger, and I've got Anthony. So I feel like I've got a good horse here that I'm going to ride to the finish line, but it doesn't feel great when the other 5 horses are under the same jockey, Sarah Bradley.
I know. You know, I think you got to switch over to the blind draft every year, right? You just switch over to the blind draft every year.
How did you do this? This is nuts that you have 5 chefs still remaining on the blind draft. Do you feel, are you surprised at how well you called this? Or are you like, you know?
Absolutely. But I think I looked at some of the stuff. I mean, I've cooked on a few of the Top Chef challenges before. I don't know how many. I think it's over 40. It's over 40, I think. And so, yeah. So, I mean, I think I looked at some of the different stuff. And I wasn't swayed at all by what Top Chef wanted me to think. I just picked them based on like their merits, just picked them based on their skill set that was available to see. I did not think I would have you 5-1. Absolutely not. I mean,
Jossie
we both wanted Jossie. We were like ready to fight over Jossie.
That was kind of like the swing factor there, is that Jossie going home early was my second pick. And he went, that was tough. Last notes here. Abyss is where they did the cook here in Greenville. I have not been there. I just want to note it for the listeners who do want to go to Greenville sometime that was the restaurant. I also want to note here that Sherry coming off the rip, off the head with the Seeger Real Housewives line of what would you call me if I was on Real Housewives? And she said, dirtier than a dirty martini. And he was like, oh, damn. Like, okay. Sherry, also a good hang. What's very clear. So this, we're going into the next episode where it's going to be the Michelin episode, which is, I'm guessing, because Greenville, the HQ here in Greenville is, I think the prompt is just going to be cook a dish that would get a Michelin star or something like that.
Yeah, I think they're going to want to see like super high end, super elevated technique. I figured we would have a Michelin challenge. I think I picked that as one of the things. I think we both said like that'll happen because the Michelin, it's their headquarters, and that's what Top Chef does. Yeah. So
maybe someone will do a pecan dish.
Pecan.
I'm
going to also shout out Chubby Fish really quick. I'm sorry I couldn't remember the chef's name earlier. I have had 2 meals there, and they have both been phenomenal.
This place is bussin'.
It's bussin'. You got to show up at we showed up and got in line about 3:30, I think. One time. Another time, I knew a chef that hooked us up with a spot, but we showed up at 3:30 and got in line and made our reservation for like 8:00 that night. Yeah, you have to get in line. They don't have like a call ahead thing. So you just get in line and then you can either go in and eat right then, but there's only 40 seats, maybe 50. I don't know. There's not very many. You can either go in and eat right then, or you can make a reservation for later in the night, but they don't take call. Like it's all a list day of. And y'all, if you are around there, you have got to go eat at that place. It is so delicious. It's so good.
Chubby Fish in Charleston. Yeah.
Oh, dude, the vibe, like the energy. So good. So good. Really, really good. So.
Well, Charlotteans will recognize the beer that Jonathan used in his beer batter was Hop, Drop, and Roll from Noda Brewing. So that is a little note there for the little Easter eggs here in Charlotte. I don't have anything else here. I'm glad Rhoda is still in the competition. I think her story, her energy. I think what we're hitting on is that the very conflicted emotions that she has on the show, and that she's, feeling not part of the crew. It's not a villain aspect of it, but there is some degree of your team versus my team outsider feeling that I'm seeing with Rhoda. And they had this big Houston event. I don't know if you caught this, but they all went to Houston for a big Top Chef reunion event type thing last week. And she did a little Facebook or Instagram video with Oscar. And it was so cute. It was great. Just she and Oscar talking about being the last ones there at the previous episode, and the turmeric coat that he wore. It was great. It was great. So go check that out. I think Rhoda posted on an Instagram. Sara, I really enjoyed this episode. I would put this one up there with my favorite ones of the season. And it made me really want to go to Greenville, and also go to Chubby Fish. So thank you for that shout out.
Yeah, it was good. I'm ready to see. I'm ready to see what next week has. I think it's going to be a hard week next week. Okay. I think we're going to see some serious critiques. I think they are going to have an expectation of food at a certain level, and if they don't hit it, they are going to be in trouble. So it'll be good.
So Team Tom is now just Team Anthony. That's really what we're coming down to. Yeah. So, all right. For Sara Bradley, I'm Tom Haberstroh, and this is Pack Your Knives.